Okay, I think it's high time to kick off the final panel of this conference. My name is Kazuo Morimoto, and I suppose that I belong to the fifth generation of Middle Eastern scholars in Japan. Today we have only two speakers in the final panel. Unfortunately, the two speakers from Ataba Tlapasia, Mr. Akil Hamad and Sadiq Jassim couldn't join us in this conference, but I guess because they belong to a Shiite shrine, and Shiism has the theory of Raiba, those two speakers are with us in a hidden state. So we will profit from the talks by two younger scholars who I suppose belong to Tabakat Sadisa. The first speaker is Dr. Kenji Kuroda, and the second speaker will be Mr. Ryo Mizukami. I will give 25 minutes to each speaker, and after the two talks we will have Q&A session. The title of Dr. Kuroda's presentation, if it's not changed, is The Materiality of Sacred Place, a study on handicrafts and tradition in contemporary Iran. So, please, Dr. Kuroda.
Thank you for introducing Morimoto Sensei. I'm Kenji Kuroda from the National Institute for Humanities and also National Museum of Ethnology. First of all, I'd like to say I really appreciate to talk here, and I'm very honored to talk here. I really appreciate to Sakai Sensei and the organizers, and also all members of the staff. Of course, as Morimoto Sensei mentioned, two speakers in this session, Akil Hamad and Sadiq Jassim, are not here. I really regret. And I'm very nervous because just only two speakers in this session. But I didn't feel nervous because I'm first speaker, and just the minor speaker next to me, Mr. Murakami is the main speaker of this session. So I'm Iranologist, and also I studied on the Iranian society after the revolution, especially focusing on the social change and cultural change after the revolution. So that's I'm not a specialist about the studies about in the Shiite state in Iraq, as you know, and I talked mainly on the Iranian parts of the relation with the Atabats. It's my start my presentation. So almost every region has some negative discourse on the material aspect of human life, and some even adopt an anti-material attitude. The Islamic context does not deny this material aspect in the Quran level. However, countless times I have heard the Iranian theology explain the spiritual aspect are more important than the material aspect of human life. In short, even in Islam, materiality has a negative position in terms of understanding its theological worldview. However, every religion has a material aspect because it is impossible for any religion to exist without some materiality. In the Islamic context, Islamic art prospered in the form of architecture and calligraphy and so on. Nevertheless, as Daniel Miller insists, Daniel Miller is a famous anthropologist, material anthropologist, mentioned many researchers' approach to religion is based on the metaphysical, and they tend to pay less attention to the material aspect of religion. The material approach to Islam is still in our stage compared to the other methodologies. This paper focuses on the material aspect in the sacred place, especially fire and mosaic tile works. It aims to reveal how relation with the material has developed over the national framework and how its experience various change in recent years. Finally, this paper explores how sacred place are constructed. This photo is shrine of Imam Hussain, Karbala. This photo taken by Tani Kenichi-san in Hitotsubashi University last month. So, as is often said, at especially still, Najaf has played central historical role in the Shiite network since the period after the appearance of the shrine of the Imams. In fact, Shiite Muslims traveled to those places for various reasons, such as pilgrimage to the mausoleums of the Imams and their religious education. In the latter case, in the mid-19th century, several prominent scholars, so-called major Taqlid, emerged in those cities. These leading right in turn attracted many younger scholars to their cities, and the cities prospered. Although rise of Qom, Iran, as a religious center started since the early 20th century, Najaf's central role as a religious education center continued until the early 1990s. There is no doubt that Shiite network has been formed over the national framework. Of course, it is necessary to pay attention to the various elements that move through the network when we mention the Shiite network. In the case of Shiite education, scholars or students move to those cities and the knowledge is transmitted to other Shiite communities through them. However, it is often difficult to reveal those elements because of the limitation of the regional resources. There is a material approach to complement the lack of information of the documental approach. So, for the case of Atabad as a sacred place, architectural materials are considered a good example. Although the Islamic architectural work in Atabad can be dated back to the late 9th century, most of the existing architectural works were built after the 16th century. For example, most of the existing architecture of the shrine of the Imams in Kazmain date back to the reign of Shah Ismail of Safavid dynasty, and the Ottoman and the Qajar extended and restored his work. As a result, the appearance of existing architectural work is quite Persian. This fact indicates that Persian craft technique has been essential for preserving the appearance of the architecture in Atabad. In other words, it's preserving the image of a sacred place. So, in fact, the architectural work in Najaf has been renovated by using the Persian style. While it is unclear how such Persian style renovation was carried out until the late 20th century, it is clear that Persian style renovation are still being carried out in recent years. Some Persian news agencies sometimes broadcast the renovation conducted by Iranian artisans. For example, this article describes the faience mosaic tile renovation carried out at the shrine in Najaf by Iranian artisan. This is Najaf, the shrine of Imam Ali in Najaf. So thus it is necessary to focus on the Iranian artisan community as actors who reproduce the sacred image of sacred places. In this regard, this paper limits itself to exploring this concept in the context of faience mosaic tile works. As I mentioned previously, affairs of architectural work often follow the Persian style, and the wall decoration of the shrine in Najaf were renovated by Iranian artisans. Contrary to this fact, these architectural works were discussed rarely in the context of study of Persian architecture. In addition, there are few works on these architectural works even in the context of the study of Islamic architecture in foreign language in English. The works of Yasser Taba and Sabrina Melbourne regarding the Najafi are the chief exception to this trend. Moreover, it is common in the study of Persian, especially with regard to the study of Islamic architecture, for attention to be paid where certain materials came from. So in other words, it has been beneficial for both types of studies to focus on the process of production of the material. Concerning the production of fine mosaic tile works in Iran, some studies have examined the context of the study of Persian architecture, and these include study of Leonardo Vilver in the early 20th century, and also other studies in the Persian handicraft, Persian art craft. For the latter type of studies, the pioneer was probably Dr. Arthur Abraham Pope, an expert in Persian art history, who had quite influence on other historians and researchers of Persian architecture, including, as I mentioned, Leonardo Vilver. Hans Wolff studied Persian handicraft extensively in the early and middle 20th century, and J. Grack as another leading figure in this field. So this is J. Grack. J. Grack, an American expert in art history and collector, was a student of Pope. He was affiliated with the Asian Institute in Shiraz University, which was founded by Pope as a research institute for Persian art and archaeology. There he studied and collected Iranian art and craft from the late half of the 1960s and to the 1970s. After the revolution in 1979, he settled in Asia, Kobe, with his Japanese wife. Before he returned to the United States later in life, my institution, the National Museum of Ethnology, accepted a part of his craft collection in 2000. And recently, I traced his collection in Iran, and I collected additional information as a part of our project on an InfoForum database for popular culture collection from the Middle East. So this is a part of his collection. It's porcelain, pottery, and glassware, and the various Persian handicraft in the mid-1960s and 70s. So his collection, including some parts of faience mosaic tile works from Isfahan in central Iran. Look at this figure. So faience mosaic tile works appeared in Malagi in Iran in the 12th century, and continued to develop through the 14th century and the Ibrahim dynasty. This technique was still used by Iranian artisans today. So the design, according to J. Grack, the design is outlined in the black and white on paper with a repeated pattern, often traced from pinhole punched. In the case of mosaic tile, a small section cut out the pattern, paper pattern and paste it on the face to the square tile according to the required color and eventual placement. Then the square tiles are cut with a tile cutter's hammer into the elements of a selected composition in accordance with the paper pattern. According to the Grack, only special engraver or chisel-like instrument is used for finishing of the tight corner indentations and drill and jigsaws were only adopted in the 1970s. The colors of the square tile were usually turquoise, red, orange, navy, yellow, pale yellow, and white, such as this figure. This work is quite delicate and needed to great amount of skill, cutting the tiles. So Black mentions the best Kashi curve or tile cutters can cut an intricate Islamic design, the arabesque design, in multiple repeats to fit a special space without using pattern or referring to the design sketch or plan. So I visited the workshop for mosaic tile works in Isfahan in order to the investigation additional information collection in this March. So finance mosaic tile works mainly came from Mashhad and Isfahan also in recent years. The workshop in Isfahan usually accepted the contract to build and renovate mosques on the shrine, and was contracted to rebuild a mosque in Najaf at the time of my field research. At the time of the current master's father's generation, family workshop was contracted to work on the shrine of Sayyid Zainab in Damascus in Syria. There are 7 male artisans worked there. There were no female artisans, but female assistants were present to cut the paper required for the blueprint and worked in other workplaces. The workshop continued to adopt a traditional style. Later I mentioned what's about the tradition, as we found. So artisans follow the master's order, and J-Grack as the J-Grack had observed in the 1970s, they continue to use a traditional tile cutter hammer in short, so they continue the heritage of the previous Iranian artisan of old. So looking at this part of the mosaic tile works, it takes 5 days to produce this model. So, however, it is unclear how the skill required for mosaic tile work were preserved until modern times in Iran, because Pope claims that in early and mid 20th century, the skill were considered to be mysterious and old. He mentioned that the technique of making faience mosaic was long held to be something of a mystery, but fortunately the art never died out. And it is practiced today in parts of Persian with something approaching the old skill. In recent years, the general environment surrounding the traditional handicraft in Iran has gradually changed. The most obvious reason for this change is the promotion of handicraft by the Cultural Heritage Handicrafts and Tourism Organization of Iran. So I'd like to abbreviate the ICHTO. Since the early 2000s, the ICHTO has tried to promote tourism in Iran, while at the same time promoting the production of traditional handicrafts. The main purpose of these activities relate to the promotion of the tourism industry program. This series of promotion attempts by the ICHTO caused some change in the traditional handicraft industry, especially in terms of apprenticeship and the gender imbalance in the handicraft production processes. In the traditional workshop, the artisan learn the skills through the apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is a common practice in the traditional Iranian handicraft production and the important way to transmit traditional techniques from one generation to another. According to William Brewer, who studied on the handicraft maker of the casual period, apprenticeship was a natural artisanship practice during this period. However, apprenticeship did not always guarantee inheritance of the technique for later generation, because the masters tended to be secretive with regards to their techniques. As a result, some of these techniques were lost. In addition, the traditional environment of handicraft production placed a limitation with regard to gender, and the production process were characterized by gender segregation. It was difficult for women to produce craft work in an environment dominated by men, and similarly for men to produce craft work in an environment dominated by women. In recent years, the promotion of handicrafts by the ICHTU has changed this situation rather. The organization has held 295 types of training courses, and it was introduced some additional subcategory with handicraft. In these endeavors, it has been supported by honorary School of the Fine Arts. As a result, female students now learn certain female-coded skills in the artisan schools, and the female artisans have grown in number. So look at this figure is a course in the honorary stand, and this two picture is a female artisans of Nina Kari enamel works in Isfahan. They also learned how techniques in the honorary stand. And textbooks relating to handicraft are also published actively. However, although the fine arts schools now offer training courses for mosaic tile works, it is unclear whether female students have availed themselves of these courses. But I don't know that the future is changing. In addition to the ICHTU's activity, the economic integration of the religious segment, which began in the 1990s, so that after the Harmony leadership as supreme leader in Iran, has also encouraged the rapid change in the handicraft industry. Handicraft manufacturing, which is capital and labor intensive, has highlighted. So production in workshop is also still small in scale with regard to capital and labor intensiveness. These production forms appeared in the pre-modern period, of course. However, handicraft manufacturing is conducted on a large scale in recent years, after the 1990s. In the field of the tile works for religious architecture, Lazabi Traditional Tile Company is the best example of such handicraft company. It was established in 1992, and it's managed by the Lazabi Economics Organization. This organization is run by the Imam Rida Shrine in Mashhad. It produced not only mosaic tile, but also other types of tiles. This is their promotion video. It's a very, sound. No problem. Just look at this movie, just it's very manufactured. Easy. Okay. So this paper examines the material aspects of the sacred place by focusing on the production of the fine mosaic tile work in recent years. So in recent years, the environment surrounding the handicraft production, including fine mosaic tile works, has gradually changed in Iran. Although it is still unclear how such change has actually influenced the production and the reproduction of the landscape or image of the Shiite sacred place in Iraq. But this paper demonstrates that it is necessary to pay attention to the Iran-Iraq borders in order to examine the sacred places in Iraq and their relationship with materiality even in the recent years. So, at the same time, it suggests that the academic exchange between Iraqi studies and Iranian studies, such a conference, it could prove beneficial for advancing sheet studies with regard to the materiality. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kuroda. I'm sorry I didn't mention your affiliation. As you have heard from himself, he is affiliated with the Center for Modern Middle Eastern Studies, National Museum of Ethnology. And the panel title is Japanese Studies on the Atabat and Shiite Islam. I also failed to mention this panel title. Dr. Kuroda's presentation and research has so far been limited to his fieldwork in Iran, but as he suggested, there should be, many aspects to be discovered if he conducts fieldwork in Iraq also. I think it's important to see what the Iraqi reaction to the Iranian, let's say, cultural invasion to Iraqi Atabat. You said Persian many times, but perhaps Iraqi perception is different. So, but if our colleagues from Iraq have fresh perspectives to offer him for continuing his research, that will be most welcomed. But the Q&A will follow after the second presentation by Mr. Ryo Mizugami, who is affiliated with the graduate school of, I teach there, but I can't tell the name in English. Humanities and Sociology, the University of Tokyo. Perhaps he doesn't want me to mention this, but he is my supervisor. So, please, Mr. Mizugami.
Thank you for kind introduction. And so he's my supervisor, so that is why I belong to the sixth generation of Islamic studies in Japan. So good evening. I'm Ryo Mizugami from the University of Tokyo. I'm very happy to be here today, and I also feel honored to speak my research here. My today's topic is the Iraqi Shiite scholars and the spread of Imamophilia in the 12th to 14th centuries. And the aim of my study is to consider the relationship, interaction, and religious dialogue between Sunni and Shiite scholars during this period from the viewpoint of Fadail works on the Imams. So, what is the Fadail work? Arabic word Fadail means the excellencies and the virtues of a specific person, thing, or place. Today I'd like to focus on the Fadail of the 12 Imams. And of course, in the Islamic literature, Fadail is one of the popular genres, and usually for the Fadail work, the authors wrote such Fadail book based on hadith and Quranic interpretations. And another excuse. My today's topic does not deal with the Atabat directly, but needless to say, the sacredness of the Atabat originated from the excellencies of the Imams. So I believe my topic can contribute to the analysis of the Atabat history as well. Okay. Okay, I'd like to start my exploration with an episode of the most prominent Shi'i scholar in the 13th to 14th century, Allama Hilli. In 1309 or 10, Ilkhanid Sultan Orjaiku decided to convert to 12th Shi'ism. At that time, he invited Allama Hilli as his religious advisor. Allama's hometown is the city of Hilla, lies halfway between Baghdad and Kufa in Iraq. So I pointed out the place of Hilla. And at the court of Sultan Orjaiku, Allama Hilli wrote several religious books for the Sultan. One of his books was Kashful Yakin fi Fadail Amirul Mu'minin, written in 1310. This Kashful Yakin deals with the Fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the first Imam of 12th Shi'ism and the fourth rightly guided Caliph in Sunnism. Allama collected hadith and Quranic interpretations concerning the excellence of Ali. By the way, this Kashful Yakin has several conspicuous features. First, this graph shows, most of his quotations are from Sunni sources. 142 times he quoted the sources in his work, and he used Sunni sources 139 times, so it's 98%, so almost most of his sources are Sunni sources. And it means he mainly depended on Sunni sources for his work, or compiling his work. And as the second feature, in addition to the authoritative Sunni sources, he also used his near-contemporary Sunni sources. And as a third feature, Allama refrained from criticizing Sunnism in his book. These features look a little strange. Although the Sultan had already become Shi'i, why did Allama choose such ways? He could use many kinds of Shi'i sources, and he could accuse Sunnism severely in this work, but he didn't do that. Unfortunately, Allama himself didn't explain anything about this reason. Thus, I'd like to think of this reason from other Fadail works of his near-contemporary Sunnis and Shi'is. As Allama quoted, Sunni scholars also had a long tradition of writing Fadail of Ali. In Kashful Yakin, we can find various Sunni Fadails of Ali written in the 9th to 12th century. So we can say Fadail of Ali was a quite popular genre, even among Sunni scholars. From the late 12th century, probably from this long tradition, the reverence for the 12 Imams, namely Imam of Filia, became a strong trend among Sunni scholars. Please see this list of the figures. It shows the Sunni scholars of the works on the Imams in the 12th to 14th centuries. These Sunni scholars respected the very 12 figures who were regarded as the legitimate 12 Imams by 12 Shiites. And these Imamophilic Sunni scholars accepted that the Imams were infallible, al-Masum, and they called the 12th Imam Mahdi, the Savior. It's this description, their description of 12 Imams are quite similar with the Shi'i description of the Imams. Although some Sunni scholars in this period were against Imamophilia, But Imam-Philic Sunnis were never regarded as bad scholars nor Shi'i-colored scholars by other Sunnis in this period. So Imam-Philic Sunnis were also obvious Sunnis at that time. As the background of spread of Imamophilia, we should be noted that the Iraqi political rulers, especially the activities of the Abbasid caliphs of the 13th century, had importance. The last Abbasid caliphs, I skipped this. Okay, so the last Abbasid caliphs, from Caliph Nasir-Din Allah to Caliph Mustasim, they rebuilt the shrines of the imams in Samarra, Baghdad, and Kufa, namely Atabat. In addition to the Abbasids, the powerful ruler of Mosul at the time, Badruddin Lulu, also interested. His activity is also interesting. Sunni Fadail author Sharafuddin Umar al-Musri dedicated the Fadail of Imams to the Badruddin Lulu. At the same time, Badruddin asked to another Sunni scholar, Abdullah Zaklassani, to compile Ali's Fadail and his son Hussein's tragedy. I have already and these last two figures I already mentioned in this list. And in tandem with the spread of Imamophilia, the Iraqi Shi'i scholars also wrote a lot of Fadail works on the Imams. Among them, Shi'i scholars from Hilla they had importance. This list shows the Iraqi Shi'i Fadail authors in the late 12th to 14th century, and we can find many Hidris among them. They are all Hidris. The city of Hilla was built in the beginning of 12th century and grew up quickly and rapidly. Hilla became one of the Shi'i scholarly centers in the 13th to 14th century. So just 100 or 200 years. In addition, we should note the fact that the Hidri scholars were close to both Abbasid and Ilkhanid dynasties, keeping good relation with the political rulers. The Hidri scholars were engaged in learning and teaching not only in Hilla, but also in Baghdad, the city of Sunni scholarly center. Here I'd like to focus on these two Hidri scholars, Ibn Bitrik and Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus. Ibn Bitrik was one of the first prominent scholars of Hilla. His generation established the scholarly circle of this city. In the end of the 12th century, Ibn Bitrik Hilli wrote two Fadail works, Al-Umda and Al-Mustadrak. Both of these works mainly deal with the excellencies of Ali. Ibn Bitrik used only Sunni authoritative sources for these two works, and he avoided blaming Sunnism. Moreover, mainly focusing on the excellencies of Ali, but his writing expanded to the remaining imams. His aim was, as he himself made clear in his Muqaddimah, to prove that the relevance for Ali and the following imams had been an interconfessional piety of Islam. I put letter A to C for each features here, and his writing, Ibn Bitrik's writing strategies was followed and developed by subsequent Iraqi Shi'i scholars. Among such scholars, the feature used by Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus is important. He was from an intellectual family of Hilla, the Taus family. He was close to both Abbasid caliphs and the Ilhanid ruler, Furak Khan. For his fadail work, Al-Yaqin, Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus took another new strategy. That is the reference to the contemporary Sunni fadail authors, as I mentioned the previous slide. This is the feature D. As a result, the four conspicuous writing strategy A to D were established by Ibn Bitrik and Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus. That is, A, focusing on Ali, B, mainly using Sunni works, C, avoiding criticizing Sunnism, and D, quotation from the contemporary Sunni fadail works. Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus and onward, Iraqi Shia scholars share these writing strategies. So, from then, the other Iraqi Shia authors share this writing strategy A to D. Why did they use the here I'd like to name these four writing strategies and the Hilla style. Sorry, I skipped this. Why did they use the Hilla style for their fadail works? They had plenty of their own Shia hadith and hadith collections to compile the fadail works. But they used Sunni ones intentionally, and their quotation from contemporary Sunni fadails on the Imams is the clear evidence that the Iraqi Shia scholars were well aware of the spread of Imamophilia among Sunni scholars. So we should regard the Hilla style as the response to the rise of Imamophilia. It is possible to assume that the Hilla style was written not only for Shias but also for Sunni readers. And I found the cases that the Sunni scholars of the 13th to 15th centuries actually learned and used the Hilla style fadail works. So we can think that the Iraqi Shia scholars used the Hilla style for gaining approval of Imamophilic Sunnis without hostility against Shias. Let's go back to Allama Hilli. Now it became clear that he also used this Hilla style for his Kashful Yaqin. Like the other Iraqi Shia authors, he focused on Ali, depended on Sunni works mainly, avoided criticizing Sunnism, and quoted from contemporary Sunni authors of the fadail. Why did Allama use the Hilla style at the Ilhanid court? Although Sultan Orjaitu had already converted to Shiism, a lot of Sunni politicians and scholars remained at his court. As Sultan's religious advisor, Allama had to explain his faith and religiosity not only for the Sultan, but also for the Sunni audience. In such situation, through Kashful Yaqin, Allama showed how the reverence for Ali and his descendants, namely the 12 Imams, had been an interconfessional piety in Islamic history. Before turning to conclusion, let me refer to Allama's different writing style. I suppose that some of you would say to me, at the same time of writing Kashful Yaqin, Allama wrote another more famous work for the Sultan, Minhajul Kalam, and it was a very polemical work against Sunnism. It is unlike the Hitler style at all. However, I would like to emphasize that except this work, the Iraqi Shi'i scholar at that time wrote few polemical writings against Sunnism. As far as I know, there is only one example. That is the work of Allama's teacher, and as I said before, Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus. He wrote one polemical work at Taif, but in his work, Radiuddin Ali ibn Taus used false name, and he concealed his authorship, and he said, his name is Radiuddin Ali ibn Musa, but he said, I am Abdul Mahmud bin Dawood. I nearly became Muslim, and I have to choose which mazhab is better for me, like this. So, as I said, he concealed his authorship in this book, but Allama Hilli didn't directly attack to the belief of Sunnism in Minhaj al-Karama. On the other hand, so Kashf al-Yaqin and Minhaj al-Karama would be able to regard as the transition period of the Iraqi Shi'i writings, and conversion of Sultan Urjaitu, this unexpected event, might change Allama's writing style, or moreover, Iraqi Shi'i's writing style. Anyhow, this problem is out of my today's topic, so I'd like to end this matter. Let me conclude my presentation. As we saw in the 12th to 14th centuries, Imamophilia spread among Sunni scholars, and Iraqi Shi'i scholars were well aware of this religious trend, and they understood that this favorable period was the good opportunity to establish themselves in relation to Sunnis. The Iraqi Shi'i authors ensured that their Hillah-style Fadail works were effective for gaining approval of the Imamophilic Sunni scholars. As the result, some of Imamophilic Sunnis actually learned the Hillah-style Fadail works. We cannot correctly understand the Iraqi Shi'i Fadail works in this period without recognizing the existence of both Sunni Fadail authors and Sunni Fadail readers. Allama Hilli's writing reflects such interconfessional religious dialogue. Their Hillah style could support the expansion of social and political influence of the Iraqi Shi'i scholars without strong hostility from Sunnis. Thank you for your listen. Sorry, I often skip my sentences, so sorry. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Mizukami. What seems to be a purely religious discourse has, of course, political and social milieu behind that. And I think the interest of Mr. Mizukami is in this intricate relationship between religiosity and politics and sociability, but I also feel that his subject has a deep relevance to the current situation in Iraq. So I think we can learn from the experiences of Iraqi and, in this case, Iranian people at that time, studied by a Japanese scholar to better understand the current situation from different perspectives. So we move to Q&A. So please, Dr. Kuroda, come up to the podium or stage. So two are now sentenced to be interrogated by whatever questions you have. Professor Bahadi.
السؤال للبروفيسور الأستاذ. أولاً من هو العلامة الحلي؟ هناك اثنين علامة حلي. أنت تتكلم على أحدهم وهو ابن نما الحلي. هذا يعني حوالي 1288 1289 ميلادي. أما الآخر هم نفسه يسمى العلامة الحلي، هذاك ابن داود الحلي متوفي حوالي 1320. فإذا أنت قاعد تتكلم على ابن نما الحلي، هذا واحد. دواعي تأليف كتاب كشف اليقين في فضائل أمير المؤمنين. أولاً هو صح ألفه للسلطان المغولي أولجت، صحيح ألفه، لكن لماذا ألفه؟ هو رد على كتاب لابن تيمية. ابن تيمية كتب عن علي بن أبي طالب ضمن الخلفاء، فما أنطى حق العلي، فابن ما كان معاصرا له فكتب هذا الكتاب اللي هو كشف اليقين في فضائل أمير المؤمنين.
The first question is which حلي يومي؟ There is two علامة
ابن نما الحلي. ابن مطهر هذا ابن مطهر.
The first question of Dr. Hussein al-Bahadili, which حلي means? There is two علامة in the same name الحلي. Ibn Nama or Mutahhar? Ibn Mutahhar. This is the first question. The second question is why did the Allama al-Hilli write this book for this Sultan? It is from the standpoint of Dr. al-Bahadili, it is a response of the writing of Ibn Taymiyyah. What do you think about that?
Sorry.
What do you think about these two questions?
Okay, so for the first question, of course, the Allama Hili I mentioned is Ibn Mutahhar, Jamaluddin Ibn Mutahhar. Yeah, so Ibn Nama is the previous generation.
Yes.
And for your second question, as I mentioned, Ibn Mutahhar, Allama Hili himself, didn't explain anything about his reason of taking such writing style, writing strategy. And so we have to assume the reason from some the other matters and the other works. So I thought the other Iraqi Shiites and the other Hili scholars also wrote much volume of Fadail works on the Imams, and the features of such works are quite similar each other. And for example, Ibn Hili, I mentioned, he clearly said, I only used Sunni authoritative sources in my work because if I use Shi'i source...
Sorry. The question was a little bit different. Professor Bahadi asked if Al-Allama al-Hilli wrote Kashf al-Yaqin in response to the criticism of Ali by Ibn Taymiyyah.
By Ibn Taymiyyah.
And he asking your question.
Understood. But yeah, but we can find same features in previous Hindi Fadail works. So it's not necessary to recognize that as the response to Ibn Taymiyyah.
لا موجود. لا العفو اسف جدا. كتاب ابن المطهر ردا على ابن تيميه واضح عندنا رساله ماجستير انا كنت رئيس اللجنه مالتها. يعني هذا موضوع يعني ما به اختلاف. موجود هذا الكتاب. السؤال الثاني انت كدكتور. بالقرن السادس ايوه لا يعني
The book of Allama al-Hilli is a response of Ibn Taymiyyah according to Iraqi sources. Dr. Hussein supervised a thesis on this topic.
Hussein means that information for you that Allama al-Mutahhari wrote this book against Ibn Taymiyyah. Because Ibn Taymiyyah called Allama al-Mutahhari al-Munajjis. As information.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. هذا واحد. القرن الثاني عشر أو الثالث عشر، الثاني عشر. القرن الثاني عشر أو الثالث عشر شهد اتجاهات بالكتابة التاريخية، بدأ التأليف الشيعي. التأليف الشيعي طبعا بالقرن.
During the 12th and 13th century, there is some books for the Shia regarding this kind of topics.
الراوندي مثلا قطب الدين الراوندي.
For example, قطب الدين الراوندي.
كشف الغمة عن الأئمة.
كشف الغمة عن الأئمة.
ابن طاووس.
ابن طاووس.
ابن طاووس طبعا العلامة الحلي عفوا الراوندي هو 573 ميلادية حوالي نعم حوالي باللي يطلع 1190 1180 ميلادية. الكتب كشف الغمة والابن طاووس يعني بعد حوالي ب10 سنوات 584 حوالي بال 1180 1170 كتب عن فرحة الغريب في تعيين قبر الإمام علي. هذا واحد. الشيعة بعدين اجى ابن شهرشوب. ابن شهرشوب كتب مناقب علي، مناقب آل أبي طالب. كتب يعني السنة كانت تكتب هم بالمناقب. ابن الجوزي كتب كتاب مناقب عمر، مناقب خالد. يعني ما قاعد اقرا فضائل السنه كاتبه تكتب بالمناقب. الشيعه علماء المؤرخين الشيعه متاثروا بالسنه كتبوا مناقب. فلذلك ظهر علماء كثيرون بهذا الجانب. شكرا.
During the same period, there is some books on the manaqib of the Sunni as Umar and Khalid. And also Shi'i people also wrote this kind of books on the manaqib al-a'imma as Imam Ali and Hussein and other people.
Yeah, thank you. And as you explained, both there was a strong tradition of writing manaqib or fadail, khasa'is, like something like this. Literature. So and the rightly guided caliphs and the 12 imams are the subjects of the Fadail works. So yeah, and I also know that some examples that one Sunni author wrote the Fadail of Ali, but at the same time, the same author wrote, for example, the Fadail of Abu Bakr and Umar. So yeah, it's an interconfession.
دكتور بس ادخل ابن ناجي البلاغ ابن أبي الحديد بس معلومة واحدة معلومة واحدة ابن أبي الحديد اذكر له من نهج البلاغة.
There is also نهج البلاغة for ابن أبي الحديد.
I have two questions for you. First, for you. You used in your presentation two terms, materialism and materiality. Okay? You used materialism and materiality.
Sorry,
Okay.
I don't use the materialism, just I use the materiality. Material aspect, of course, I mentioned the material aspect, but not materiality.
Okay, you don't use, but you describe Islam that Islam that has a negative position toward the materiality. Okay.
No.
In the first slide, you said that Islam has a negative position toward the materiality.
No, I explained in the Quran, Islam does not deny the material aspect of the human life, but in the discourse of the Iranian Shiite clergy, sorry. So they insist on the spiritual aspect is more important.
The first slide of his presentation.
Yeah, but he said like that.
You can't.
Well, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't present your first slide.
Sorry. Sorry. But on the slide, I take the mistake. But I read your mistake. I'm so sorry. I didn't say. I explained that just only they insist that they insist on the importance of.
No problem. I don't have a problem, but or objection. But I have clarification of some point in your lecture that there's no problem for Islam toward the materiality, but there's problem with materialism, because materialism universal view toward the world. Okay, avoid spirit and out. Even in Islam, materiality has a negative position in terms of understanding its theological worldview.
Sometimes.
I think not materiality, materialism, because materialism, universal view, avoids spirit and God and everything less material, and explain the world and everything by material. Materiality means material aside from everything, like me, you have body material aside, and you have spirit or soul, okay? But there's no objection toward your material side or my material side. This is I mean. For this second lecture, you use methodological matter. It's very important in Al-Hilli book. My question. In your opinion, why Al-Hilli use most of his sources from Sunni sources, not from Shia sources? Why? You can answer me?
Yeah. Before he answers, first, thank you for correcting my English.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for your question. And as I refer to in my conclusion, I think his Kashf Yakin is the work not only for the Sultan but also for the Sunni audience in the court of Iranian. There are many Sunni politicians, for example, Rashid Uddin, Fadlullah Hamdani, he is famous Shafi historian, and Rashid bin Fadlullah wrote some dialogue, included some dialogue with Alan Lamhili in his work. So they were crossing each other. So that, in my opinion, that is why Al-Rama used Sunni, much volume of Sunni sources.
This is your opinion, but I have other opinion, but not Shia opinion. As a person, Al-Hilli used Shia Sunni sources because the Sunni sources is official sources supported from government and the state. Therefore, he wants to improve his argument when he used Shia sources because he used a dialectical method, not logical demonstration, but a dialectical method require to use the sources from other side sources, not from Shia sources. Therefore, he wants to improve his argument toward readers, use Sunni sources, not Shia sources. This is my opinion. You're free to your opinion.
Yeah, but the Sultan Urjaitu, he served this Sultan. He had already converted Shiism. So it was natural to use Shia sources.
In general, in general,
I
the Sunni sources is official and supported by governments and the state. The other cause, because he wants to improve his argument, therefore he used other sources from his against opinion.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Thank you for your lecture, and I would like to ask a question to Dr. Kloda, because I'm interested in the participation of women in the autism area in Iran, and why the Iranian society accepts the participation of the women in the autism area, like traditional autism area. For example, in Japan, we have the traditional carpenter, the miyadaiku, who may construct a shrine and temples, but in general, the women, can or cannot, women can be this kind of the carpenter, but the number is really few. So why the Iranian society is has the positive position to accept like the participation of the women in the traditional artisan area?
Thank you for your question. Of course, it is different from the type of handicraft. So in the category in the minakari or enamel work, there's a lot of female artisans, but it is difficult to find the female artisan in the pottery, the traditional pottery workshop. But of course, there's some female artisan work in the factory. Is a manufactured type of handicraft. But and as I mentioned, I didn't meet the female artisan in the field of the mosaic tile works. Just as a part of your answer, it is not a general phenomena in the solve the gender imbalance, but some field is the progress.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps in terms of materiality, In the case of Japanese carpenters who make shrines, I think their participation is prohibited because women are supposed to be impure ritually. So in that case, if that is true, the Japanese case says that material aspect of religion has some intrinsic meaning which should not be which should not be contaminated by impure people. But if in the Shiite case, the approach, if it is different, perhaps it shows some different approaches to materiality in religion. So, I mean, that just flashed in my mind. Yeah. Okay, it's already 6 o'clock, but I'd like to take one or perhaps 2 more questions if there are shorter ones. Did you raise your hand? No. Oh yeah. Professor Kasi?
I am so glad to listen to the 2 presentations, but I think it is very important for the younger Japanese researchers to cooperate with Najaf and Karbala, because in Karbala, in Al-Ataba al-Abbasiyya, there is a Kafil Museum. The Kafil Museum has a very important manuscripts. Therefore, I think if you have this kind of cooperation with Al-Ataba al-Abbasiyya, Al-Ataba al-Husayniyya, Al-Ataba al-Alawiyya, and Kafil Museum, you can see some important sources about this kind of fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if there is no other hand being raised, oh, please, of course you're most welcome. Please.
プレゼンありがとうございました。すごく面白かったんだけど、先生に質問があるんですけど、Why are women considered impure in Japan? Because it seems so strange to me. That, why?
Well, I cannot give any educated explanation as to this, but of course, menstruation has some meaning in this regard. I mean, menstruation is counted as impure. And childbirth, which involves blood flowing. So it has to do with the functions of female genital. To that extent, I know.
I see, but men comes from women, so
Yeah, but
doesn't that mean men also impure?
but that's how human group establishes
Usually
its
in
own,
Japan and other countries, they compare men by wolves. So which one of them is more impure?
Okay.
I think we should ask the Japanese society this.
Well, I mean, don't essentialize Japanese society. I mean, I was talking about those carpenters. Okay, so with this provocative comment from the floor, I'd like to close this final panel. Let's thank these 2 young scholars. And now I pass the microphone to Professor Sakai.
Professor Mahmoud, would you come? Thank you. This is the end of the 2 days conference, and now I'd like to ask Professor Dr. Mahmoud to give a concluding remark.
thank you, Professor Keiko Sakai, for all your support for this 10th Iraqi-Japanese conference. We are, as Iraqi delegation, is so glad to participate in this important conference. This is the 10th Iraqi-Japanese Symposium. Since 2009, we have 10 Iraqi-Japanese Symposium regularly every year. We have one in Tokyo and one in Baghdad. This is a fruit of our long cooperation with the Japanese institution. Waseda University and University of Tokyo and Chiba University, one of the important gates to other Japanese institutions. We are very proud now. We are more understanding of the development of Japanese Middle Eastern studies and Japanese scholars majoring in Middle Eastern studies. Therefore, at the College of Arts of the University of Baghdad, we started this work since more than a decade. We have the support from Japanese and Iraqi institutions. We looking for a future for more cooperation between Iraq and Japan. Next year, as I said in the last session, next year we will celebrate of the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Iraqi-Japanese institutions. Now, for the first time, we have a very good cooperation between Embassy of Japan in Baghdad, Embassy of Japan in Tokyo, and the Iraqi academics in Iraq and Japanese academic in Tokyo. This is very important for develop the mutual understanding for our two countries, and we are looking for more and more and more cooperation with the Japanese institution. Thank you for our University of Baghdad and for Professor Usama, and for our president for the University of Waseda, for Professor Sakurai, for all our colleagues here in Japan to support all of our cooperation. I think Professor Usama want to give a small gift for Professor Sakai.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's very beautiful. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
A small gift also for Professor Keiko Sakurai from our Vice President.
Anyway, this is really the end of the conference, and before ending the conference, let me give you a small closing remark from my side. As Professor Dr. Mahmoud mentioned, we started our joint academic conference 2007, not 2009. Not 9. 2007.
7.
Yeah.
Yes.
As far as I remember, the delegation came to the Tokyo University for foreign studies in 2007, right?
The first was in Waseda University.
No. Waseda University was the second one.
Second.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But anyhow, anyway, the first time when the delegation came to Japan and to organize the kind of the conference, it was 2007. At the Tokyo University for Foreign Studies. And since then, I find today or yesterday, I found big development from the first meeting, because actually very sorry to say that in the first conference, it was like a kind of the funny mixture between the Iraqi scholars who wanted to study about Japan and Japanese scholar who wanted to study on Iraq. So nobody can. Actually, it doesn't fit each other, because as she mentioned, when the Iraqi scholar wanted to know about Japan, the Japanese scholar on the Iraqi studies cannot answer it as he did, and he couldn't. Okay, so this is so it means that to answer your question, we need a Japanese scholar on the Japanese society. But the Japanese scholar on the Japanese society never have a big interest in cooperating with the Iraqi scholars. That is a really big problem for us. So, but this time, when you see the program of the conference, you see that there was the Japanese specialist on the Japanese education, which that you wanted to know. And there are the scholars on the Atabat, or the Shiite religious the authority. Japanese scholars who wanted to study about the Shiite authority gave the presentation, and they're the specialist on the Shiite authority. Unfortunately, this time the people from Atabat didn't appear, but actually we try to match the both demand and supply together. And so in that sense, I think that this conference was very, very successful, and I hope that the next time we can do the similar conference, either in Tokyo, either in Japan, or either in Iraq. And before I invite Dr. Salah for the concluding remark, I just wanted to explain the song that now I can see you are listening is it's sung by him. He is a singer-songwriter, and he is encouraging the cooperation between Japan and Iraqi art and Iraqi culture. And he lives in Kyoto, and I can say coincidentally he comes to Tokyo, so it's a nice chance to introduce his song. Last remark.
Thank you, Professor Sakai, for this conference. Thank you for cooperation with our institution in Iraq. I hope we continue to deepen this cooperation and to include other humanities and other scientific disciplines. I want to thank all the attendances in this conference and invite our friends, Professor Sakai and other Japanese scholars, to 11th conference, Iraqi-Japanese conference in next year in Iraq. I hope we could hold it in Baghdad, and we will specify the date of this conference in near future, and we will choose a good title of this conference, like this important title of this conference about education system and comparative studies about among Iraqi and Javanese educational system. We benefit from this conference, and I want to again thanks for this arrangement, a good arrangement, and a good papers and discussion for this new subject and very important matters. Thank you for all, and I repeat again, I invite you and your scholars to Baghdad in next conference. Thank you for all. Thank you.